nice to be here and represent Latvian Academy of Culture and also our Institute of Arts and Cultural Studies. For many years I have worked on the song and dance celebration tradition and amateur arts movement, and I even wrote my PhD about the role of emotions in the song and dance celebration, so I do feel more comfortable to speak about that topic than, in front of so many professionals and practitioners to speak about the field of music. I stand here as a cultural sociologist who luckily had a great pleasure of getting insights into the field of music and work with colleagues with much greater experience in this area. And I'm also really into methodological processes and to find out better ways of how to study cultural phenomena. So I come here with an expertise of how to do it practically. To start with, this research was carried out by within the framework of the research project CARD. My colleague was also introducing. So my colleagues was on a task to analyze the current cultural ecosystem in Latvia, and they came to conclusion that to fulfill that task and to examine the linkages among operator groups in cultural ecosystem and assess the resources of the arts and cultural capital in Latvia, they needed specific methodological tools how to do it. And they addressed me because of my experience in the social network analysis. I have done that in previous projects, already mentioned Riga Cultural Capital evaluation. And I'm going to give you the framework of how we came to this. So, in many studies we have discussions about what is the culture and creative sector, what is the culture and arts field, how to define it empirically in our studies. And the outcome of discussions is often that it's hard to define cultural sector and that there are too many blurred lines and there are unclear boundaries, who is in and who is out. For example, look at the music sector. Should we include amateurs or professionals? What to do with the popular or alternative music styles? We could keep it at the level of discussions, but when it comes to giving argumentation about support and funding, culture, as we saw it in the last presentation, and funding in culture in general, or in specific sectors, or even for specific operator groups, as it was in a COVID era, we have to make the decision about boundaries. Researchers around the world are looking for the theoretical concepts and approaches of how to do it. In the previous 3 decades, the use of ecosystem concept to analyze the social phenomena has grown rapidly. As it is in biological ecosystem, in cultural ecosystem, each participant is equally important and support the whole system. Researcher John Holden describes it as a non-hierarchical way to look at the culture. It is the system, a structure, which gives you a view from above, and there are no dominating actors in this. The ecosystem concept includes not only features related to market and economics, but also non-profit, social and community activities. And we can use this approach to analyze the sector's development as a whole. Researcher John Holden suggests we could look at the ecology of culture as 3 hugely interactive spheres: publicly funded culture, commercial culture, and homemade or amateur culture. We know there is firstly a lot of differences. Secondly, as we see it in Latvia's small cultural ecosystem, there are many crossover and interaction points between these 3 groups. And what are the methodological tools to study cultural ecosystems? One suggestion from researchers was to use the social network analysis to see who constitutes the network. But we understood that it was too unachievable to do it empirically and study the whole cultural ecosystem in Latvia. We decided to analyze smaller scale sector to see how the approach works, and luckily the music sector was our choice as it represents all 3 spheres. Our aim was to analyze the advantages and limitations of studying a cultural ecosystem using social network analysis. In today's presentation, I will talk about how to analyze the ecosystem of Latvian music field and identify the main operator groups and their relationship, and what are the advantages and limitations of using social network analysis in studying the music ecosystem. And my talk will be more about how to do it than the interpretation of the results. Our first step was to think about how to apply the social network analysis to the music ecosystem, and that led to a lot of hard decisions. So social network analysis, there's nothing to do with Facebook. It's an approach or process of studying social structures through the use of networks and graph theory, which comes from mathematics. And the main idea is to visualize the structure of something by choosing the vertex or node. Well, I tried to draw it. Or an actor, and decide on the relation or ties we're going to study. And then we have this information, we can apply certain measures for those networks. We decided to do a survey to get an information about our target group, which was representatives of the Latvian music field. The survey was sent to various organizations and commercial firms. Survey consisted of questions about activities they're doing in the music field. They had to choose one, so we can make this network homogeneous. They answered about characteristics of their main occupation and about resources in the field. We got 365 answers, and I do love when surveys have such a beautiful response base. And the result of the approach is not only the survey data, but the networks which we analyzed afterwards. You're going to see them later, a bit larger. The first thing we decided was to analyze not the smallest part of the ecosystem, that would be each participant, but to analyze which occupation or activity, or we call them operator groups, collaborate in the ecosystem and in what way. So actors or nodes of our network will be primary occupations or activities respondents are doing in the field. And also occupation or operator groups they're collaborating with, and for methodological reasons was not included in the survey. We asked in the survey about five types of relationship: general relationship, incoming and outgoing financial, other contractual, and creative collaborations. As we didn't survey all operator groups in the survey, the results are one-directional. We can count the numbers of how many other groups say they are collaborating with a specific group. That's going to be the main measure I will be counting in my presentation. And also, I'm going to show you how, who is the most influential by measure, which calls the between centrality, which means who ensures the flow of information. Also, I'm going to use measures to describe whole network, centralization, and density. Based on the UNESCO and World Bank's report, we draw the music ecosystem boundaries, which we have to do by using the model of the cultural product production as a tool. It divides this ecosystem in 5 parts: curating, making, distributing, exchanging or exhibiting, and archiving or critiquing activities. Thanks to our colleagues and experts, this division was applied to Latvia's music field with slight changes. Each of 5 circles have specific subfield activities or occupations which we used as an actors or operator groups in our network or the nodes. And the idea was to see in the network which occupation groups collaborate in the system, in the ecosystem, and how, and I repeat, operator groups, not individuals. And this was challenging. Why? In the survey, we needed to identify a certain role, activity, or occupation each respondent did in the music field. And it was necessary to get a unique answers about one operator group and their relationship. So we asked to identify which of their roles was the main one in the field. Well, which is hard, right? And then to answer questions about that one. Then we built a network summing together all respondents representing certain operator group, and the relationship ties was the sum of all possible relationships. Any untypical relationships are here included in the network. And data revealed that, well, okay, you cannot see everything, that only 27% of respondents had only one activity they were doing in the music field. The rest of them had 2 or more, of course. Also, they came from different ecosystems within the music ecosystem itself. Well, popular, academic, and folk, or representing idea of the John Holden. Here, in comparison between activities, they have indicated as the main ones, and the other activities respondents checked. Of course, we cannot talk about representative data here, as we do not have information about general population. And although we have reached in the survey almost all occupations, when it comes to choosing the main one, we cannot impact which one the respondent choose. For example, you can see 90% indicated that they are, or probably you can't see, sorry, 19% indicated they are text authors, but only 1% pointed out that it was their main occupation. So the operator group's relationship in networks, this operator group's relationship in the network is based on only 1% of respondents. That was a challenge. Another challenge was how to reach operator group in the music field, how to reach each operator group. For some groups, we did not have a definable population or could not reach them. So there were 8 operator groups we did not survey, but they were included in the answer list as a possible collaboration partners. Those were operators from another sectors or partly in the music sector. And finally, I'm here with the first network, which represents general relationship each operator group have in the ecosystem. And the size or number of nodes signifies how many other operators collaborate with a certain one. On average, each operator group has 11.5 collaborations. The density measure was 0.52, which I converted to percentage for you to better understand. If the number was 100, then collaboration will be between all actors in the network. But here it is 52%. And the network is measured as decentralized. What does it mean? I think, well, that's a good sign for cultural ecosystem, as there are no separate groups emerging from it. Like, you can see that all of them are somehow connected, or at least there is a possibility for them to collaborate. And we can see that the most frequently all surveyed operator groups collaborate with the composers, representatives of recording studios, the least social media promoters. And here's interesting measure, this is between centrality, which reveals which operator group is the most powerful actor between every 2 other nodes. And this means, it is like an information gatekeeper. And here you see, accordingly, composers and representatives of a recording studio are the ones in the ecosystem. Another network reveals to whom the most frequently the other operator groups collaborate creatively. And you can see that information gatekeepers don't always correspond with them. Representatives of music venues have a power to ensure information flows in the creative networks, but I will leave that interpretation to you. Probably I don't have time and I have to skip financial collaboration, as we have a lot of methodological issues here to solve, and this could make somebody look too good. We also measured collaborations in another contractual ways, not financial ways. But I would like to show you that data. Here we can see that on average, the general network has more collaborations, 11.5, than specific networks. But the explanation could be, quite obvious. When we have to think concretely about how to define our collaborations, it's really hard to define them and, remember them. And I find somehow good sign that the used potential of creative collaborations is a bit higher than in the financial networks, which means the creativity still goes before money. But that's my interpretation. And in the survey, we asked to which specific music ecosystem or environment respondents belong, according to John Holden's idea, and made 3 networks based on their answers. And here results are quite different. The highest number of collaborations was in the popular music, then in the academic, the lowest 2.7 in the folk arts ecosystem. Also, the used potential was really low, 12%, and probably it signifies that in the folk arts, as a separate ecosystem, there are less collaboration partners, but we cannot say that ecosystem doesn't use its potential because they have specific operator groups, and data will be different if we measured operator groups important only to this ecosystem. We can see the most important operator groups in each group: educators for academic music, representatives of venues for popular and folk music. However, in popular and also in academic music, composers are information gatekeepers. I probably don't have time to say anything about the resources we measured. I have a time, or do I? Yeah, please do. Okay. So here you see in brackets what percentage of respondents need their respective resource. 87 need funding, also human resources and technical provision. But then we compared resources needed with their availability. And this was drawn to X and Y axis to compare which resources were not needed, are available, are needed, are available, etc. And the important sector with the resources are needed and not available. Here you see, or not, probably you don't see. It is funding and state and municipal support, not in the financial way. Well, this is the one right here. Yes, well, those are the resources which are needed but not available. And we compared data and found out that in the sector, are needed and not available. There are different resources for each environment. For academic music, it was funding and state municipal support and audience. For popular, it was funding and regulation. For folk, master classes. The rest of them were in the other sectors which were not which were probably not needed or not available. But I suppose you're interested in, the common in all of them. The common was availability of technical provision, human resources, and demand for product and service. Tricky part is not needed and not available, because if we don't know something, it doesn't mean that we don't need it, right? So there is probably a lack of knowledge of resources like NGO support or business support tools. But that's the thing you have to think about. Why is like that? And alas, I have came to conclusion. I won't talk about the conclusions you already saw in my presentation. I would like to talk about what else could we do with this data. We have possibility to draw and analyze the music ecosystems network and resources by the other various characteristics from the survey data. Ecosystems of professionals and amateurs, for example. Those who are in and out of the song and dance celebration tradition, for example. Ecosystems of various education types, in the music field, outside, no education at all, etc. Ecosystems of employment status. Government organizations, NGOs, commercial, and so on. Music ecosystems in various regions, in Riga, in cities, in municipalities. And my final words would be, there are a lot of challenges to measure an ecosystem, and here are a few of them based on our knowledge to use the social network analysis approach. When it comes to practical action to get data, we need to make a lot of sometimes hard decisions. Who will be in the ecosystem and who will be in and who will be out. Of course, this is more testing methodology than to get a representative data, but we concluded that the social network analysis can be the most useful if we include all possible actors and reach as many from the ecosystem as we can. So this means the researchers really appreciate when the ecosystem itself is responsive and eager to help to get data about themselves. Thanks to everyone who took part in our survey, and if there are some, and I would love to hear any comments or questions about our study. Thank you.
Thank you, Līga. So, any comments or questions about the study?
I'm a bit confused about who is the information gatekeeper. It just caught my attention, and you probably explained it, but as I'm a little slow, I didn't get it.
Yes.
So if you could please elaborate on that.
Yes. Well, in the social network analysis, there are many measures from the graph theory mathematics, and the one is between centrality, which measures how many two other nodes or actors in the network you're connecting. Well, it's a mathematical way how to express it. It's a number, but if it's higher, then you're more important. And the between centrality usually ensures the information flow in the network. So I call them information gatekeepers or like information keepers. You know the important information in the network, and you can spread it further, or you can leave it at you probably. But that's the role the network analysis allows to measure. Yeah, but I know it's hard to explain because it's the mathematical measure. Yeah.
Well, even if it's a mathematical measure, it should be possible to explain.
Yeah. Well, okay. What we I'm not a mathematician. Well, this measure, for example, it can be one.
Sorry. So you once said information keeper or gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So what is the difference and why gatekeeper? Because if you say gatekeeper, it implies that someone is sitting on an information and doesn't want to pass it.
Yes, exactly. So, for example, think about two nodes or two actors, for example, composers and text authors. And, well, you can call any third party in this, for example, producers, managers who, connect both of them. And in the network, he's in the middle, and he connects both of them. But together, they're not connected. They're connected only because of this third party. So he's the responsible whether they get information about how to collaborate or no. And if in a network you connect more actors, for example, if you are the only person who connect all of them, so you have the information or you have the knowledge, probably that could be knowledge, not also information. What else? But you are the powerful one. I hope I somehow try to explain it, as I'm not really mathematician, sorry.
Well, I can understand why a producer who is connecting, for example, the lyricist and the composer is a gatekeeper or information keeper, but why a composer is an information gatekeeper, I just didn't get it, sorry.
Yeah, and as I said, this, I want to interpret the results because we were testing this methodologically, and actually we would love to hear ideas from professionals about that. Why composer? Because, as I said, I'm not from the field and I cannot interpret that data. But, maybe you have interesting ideas about why composer is so important. Well, of course, he is, right? But, data like that shows that he is, and yeah.
Just from my personal experience working with composers, sometimes even trying to get information about the pieces they have written during that year to include in our database proves to be an enormous challenge. They're keeping even that information they're keeping to themselves.
Okay, maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, but it has nothing to do with their gatekeeping role. It's just they're sloppy, you know.
Therefore, gatekeepers.
Okay, can I comment as this gatekeeper is my my way of how to describe between a centrality in two words, so you can better understand probably.
Could I comment on that?
Yes, please do.
Well, my interpretation would be that composers, at least in Iceland, where I come from, they tend to have to run things a lot themselves. So they are finding a producer, they are finding a musician, they are actually recording their own CDs, their music. So they are running things a lot, which we want the support system to be able, so they don't have to do that, so they don't actually have to be their own managers and do everything. But the reality for them is that they do a lot of this work themselves. So maybe that is the reality here as well. So that's why they come out of this research as the gatekeeper.
Yeah, thank you.